Praise the Lord. Good to be back another Sunday with each and every one. And we've been enjoying the response. Seems like each week more and more seem to like what we're sending out, and gives many that's being shut in and being quarantined a chance to still get the word. And we praise the Lord for that. I'm going to do a couple songs starting out for you today. And first time I heard it, the message stirred my heart in such a special way. You know, sometimes as ministers especially, people get to thinking that we're invincible, that we don't have issues, that we don't have problems. Well, we're human. We do have situations and problems. There's times that when problems surmount so much, that there's times that this pastor here has to just go off and not only just pray about it, but tears start flowing. There's times that I just have to cry and say, God, I need you. Listen to the words. God's always there to pick us up. He wipes away every tear. He's always there to make a way. Several years ago, God stirred upon my brother as we were gathered up at Fields of the Woods having a church picnic. He come and he brought a song that the Lord stirred upon his heart. And the melody was familiar, but the words just caught on so quickly. I was quickly able to just jump right in and help him in the harmony. And such a beautiful message, because it made the change in his life is why these words come forward. Now I'm a Christian. How awesome that is to be able to make that proclamation. Listen to his words.
But it's his first night back in church since he was just a teen. He didn't know how to act till he felt that special beat. And he went down to the altar, fell down on his knees to pray, and he accepted God into his life today. Now he's a Christian, so full of God's love. He's been forgiven of every sin he's done. He's got freedom, and he was lost, but now he's found by a God who will love you, never let you down. Now he's got a new love shining in his life. If you don't believe it, tell his children or his life. Well, there's no more fussing by, no more staying out the ball tonight. Now all he's got is God's love shining through his life tonight. Now he's a Christian, so full of God's love, and he's been forgiven of everything he's done. He's got his freedom. He was lost, but now he's found by a God who will love him and never let him down. Now he's a Christian, so full of God's love, and he's been forgiven of everything he's done. He's got his freedom. Well, he was lost, but now he's found by God who will love you,
about things that's going on, and the biggest thing that it has brought, not the sickness, not the virus or anything like that, it's the fear. People so afraid to come in contact with each other. People so afraid for everything that's going on around them. We already deal with fear when we have to wonder how my bills are being paid, how sicknesses are dealing with my body in different situations. But to let fear rule our life, we just remove faith completely out of our life. And we need faith. We're Christians. We're supposed to walk by faith, not by sight, not by what we hear, but by faith. And faith will conquer fear. Fear is nothing but a liar. And it seems like several of the new songs that I've heard this past year and some last year, seems that every one of them ministered against this particular fear. And this one here always just seemed like it was just an anthem. I've heard several artists sing it. I'm nowhere as good as them, but I do love the message. And please listen to the words closely. Not to us how we sing, but to the words. When he told you you're not strong enough to put into the fire, because He is a liar. Amen. Fear is definitely a liar. I'm going to give a little bit of time for a short teaching of the Word. That Daniel coming back this way, helping us out again as he is our adult Sunday school teacher here at the church. And we do welcome all of you. When all this is over with and the church doors open back up, please come on out and be with us and see what it's like to be here, not under recording, but just to worship with us, shout with us, rejoice with us. You say shout, yeah, we're shouting church. We believe in shouting. We believe in saying amen. But our Sunday school youth is open forum. Everyone gets to participate. And it's a great time of Bible study. And Daniel has brought up something good that I thought this song would be a good intro for when it says, we will go through worldly chaos to reach our heavenly kingdom. In other words, it sounds like these are things we seem to have to go through. But the great thing, don't fear it. Let God move and touch through it. Praise God.
Praise the Lord. I'll try to make this quick when no people here kind of pitching in. It'll just be me kind of talking. So I'll try to get through it pretty quickly. Give my dad some time. Not try to hold y'all long. I know everybody's sitting comfortably watching it, and we appreciate it. We do love everyone, miss them. Don't be afraid to send in your prayer requests, send in things you need. Especially with this time that we're going through. And as I was driving to work the other day, I sit there and I had a thought, and I was looking around, and we all went through, many people went through devastation on Sunday night. You know, and a day that you wouldn't expect to end Easter in. And with everything we've been going through already with this COVID-19, and then you're getting these natural disasters that are happening. I mean, Nashville got hit a couple of weeks ago, and when you look at the news, they're expecting this to be one of the worst years ever, and Georgia especially has faced itself in tornadoes. So we have a lot to pray about, but we also have a lot of questions going through people's minds today. As I thought, as we going through, why? Why are we going through it? Why are we seeing changes? Why does, when you think you're just overcoming one disaster, one disease, does something else happen? So with that, I had a couple of questions. Had a thought that came to my mind, and, with all this worldly chaos, what do we need to do to reach that heavenly kingdom? What do we need to do to get the answers through the things that we're facing? A good verse right here. There's two, and then what I don't have up here, I also want you to think of is James chapter 1. Read the whole thing sometime this week. Read the whole message that it has in James chapter 1 of what God will do for you, what Jesus did for us, and what He will do for you. That we have to go through trouble. We have to go through trials. But Acts 14:22 says, "And confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must, through much tribulation, enter into the kingdom." As it says right there, to enter in, we're going to have to go through troubles and trials. If you don't understand what tribulation is, watch the news. Watch what's going on in your life. Listen to families, members, and what they're dealing with. Look at the hospital. That's tribulation. It ain't just finances. It ain't just sickness. It's everything. It's the stress. It's the fear. It's everything we're dealing with. These headaches. That's the tribulations we're going through today. So as I sat there and I thought, why are we going through these storms, these battles, these tribulations, etc.? And when I put etc., that's because why are we? When you think about it, it's not. Some people, they call it their storms. Some people call it their headaches. Some people call it their trials. Some people say it's their battles. Some people call it their drama. But either way, as I sat there and I was driving and I thought of this, God needs to remind us of our priorities. That's one of my dad's favorite messages. is maybe God's having to get America, not just our family, not just Daniel here, not just you at home, but maybe God's having to get us back to where we need to be and get our priorities in order. Sometimes to get your priorities in order, we don't want to let things go. So I can tell you what, COVID-19 definitely makes you let some things go. So, and God also needs to remind us we can live without those meanly worldly treasures. We can live without having to eat out every day. Yes, our grocery bill might be high, but think of the money you're saving by not buying, constantly going to the store. You can live without having to go to all these amusement parks. We can live without sports. That's hard for me to say for someone who loves sports. But that shows that there's no athlete mightier than the Word. It also says God needs to remind us where our priorities are. Not just what are our priorities, but where are they? He needs to also remind us how strong we are. And he simply needs to remind us, but show us. Now, I didn't finish that because every one of us are sitting here right now with something else going on. And when he needs to remind us sometimes, maybe he needs to remind me or show me something in my life that's different than what he does for others. You know, someone could be going through something financially right now. Someone can actually be going through sickness right now. Others might be going through damage they faced on their home. Others might be dealing with a problem that was even before all this. We all have things that we wonder why the chaos in our life is going on. You know, there's people going through divorces right now. And if you've been through a divorce right now, it's chaos. And there's only one person that can bring peace to any situation we go through. And that's Jesus. That's our Lord, Father God. You know, Easter was last week, and we talked about reminding them what he did for us as a father. And it's a reminder this week, through all the chaos going on, there's still a Father there that's out there to love us and protect us. So real quick this morning, I want to remind you of 7 promises from God. You know, these are promises that he will bring us from the storms in our lives. Now, this ain't 7 promises that Daniel Busey has told you. These are only 7 of the promises in the Bible that he's put out there. So this is from the Word. Sometimes we wonder what's the best direction in our life. If you're confused right now, open the Bible. Number 1, it says in Job 23:10, "But he knoweth the way that I take. When he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold." Now, if we know gold, when you hear that word, we come forth as gold. Gold is rich. Gold is a thing that everybody in this world wants. Why? Because it can buy you things. Gold can get you places. Now, like what it says, we will come out as gold. That means we was also, if you know how to get gold, when you find gold, if you're going to go hunting, it comes up and it looks like a dirty little rock. And you have to go and you have to clean it. You have to put it through fire. It has to be tested and it has to be tried before it becomes a true piece of gold that you can use to spin. So he brings us out as gold. But God knows our way, and we are only passing through. He reminds us that we will come out to the other side. We will, not we might, not that it's going to be hard, but he reminds us that we will come out on the other side. Change for the better, the stronger, the shining, and the beauty that's deep within us. Now again, when you think of gold, it isn't the prettiest thing when you're mining for it. But in the end, matter whether you make a little gold coin or a gold bar, it is beautiful in the end. Why? Because it had to go through that fire. It had to be tested to put to where it could be used properly. Or number 2, in John 16:33, God tells us also, these things I have spoken unto you, that in me, yea, ye might have peace. In the world that ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. Because I have overcome the world. Now that's kind of a hard one, because he just told us you're going to have tribulation, but I want you to be happy through it. You know, there's someone right now that's probably thinking, I got storm damage at my house. I've lost everything. How am I supposed to be happy? Sit down and talk to God a little bit. He'll show you where you can be happy. There's still way more blessings out there than negative. And this morning we have to remind people of that. Because my Uncle David was right in the heart of that tornado. And when you look through and you see all the devastation that people went through, you can think about all the troubles and trials you're going through in regular life, but when you sit there, it also took that storm to remind others that they are blessed. That them things that was taken from the storm, they still have the one thing that is most priceless that God gave them. And that's us, that He created. He reminds us that there will be trouble in this world, but He's already overcome it all. He's already victorious. And that same power works in us today, giving us the courage and strength to preserve and overcome. We didn't have to go through what Jesus had to. But Jesus did that to show us that we can overcome anything this world brings to us. Number 3, in Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to His purpose. We know all things work together. Sometimes it don't seem, we don't have, I think of our old movie, The A-Team. And I always like the saying that I like it when a plan comes together. I think that's kind of something how it comes and goes about. You know, because as the leader of that, he always loved it. When he made a plan, it always seemed to work out. It's the same thing with our God. We don't understand it. I don't understand sometimes. I've seen people, my sister went through last year, when you lose a job, but you was complaining about that job the whole time, and then it gets taken away from you, and now you wonder, wait a minute, why do that? Sometimes God's been trying to get you to walk away from something, so He had to take it from you to get you to move forward. And now I look at her, and she's happy. She's in a place where she needs to be, but why? It worked out to His purpose. Sometimes we don't understand His methods, but it ain't made for us to. He created this world. Sometimes He needs to do things, though, to open the world's eyes. For those of us who love Him and are called by His purpose, He promises these powerful words. And all things God works for the good. So even the tornado, even the COVID-19, even divorces, even things we don't understand going on in our home, even financial battles, when you put it in God's hands, you start realizing all these things work for good. They work for His purpose. Number 4, James 1, verses 2 and 3. Now this is just a start. I told you at the beginning to read this whole chapter of James 1. It will give you light of what's going on that we're facing today. But it says right there in verses 2 and 3, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. If you ain't found patience through all this going on, you're finding it. Some people are finding patience with their own husbands and wives. Some people are finding patience with their kids. But as we're finding out, we're finding patience we didn't have before, because we have to realize when we look to the Father, we might not understand when, we might not understand why, we might not understand the problem, exactly what's going on, but I can tell you, be patient. And be joyful through this. 2 hard things to do together. Be patient and be joyful, because in the end, God has going to work it out. He's going to bring us through it, and we're going to be better at the end of it. So God reminds us to choose joys in whatever we face. Again, that's a hard thing to do. Confident that He is working even though every trial and hard place to bring us greater endurance. We never gain greater strength and spiritual muscles simply by living an easy life. You don't gain the wisdom. You don't gain anything from just having everything given to you. You have to work for it. We can only build deeper faith and perseverance by walking through the hard times that press us more closely to His presence. Sometimes we have to go through the hard times to bring us to our knees. Because when the path is easy, it's an easy walk. But when that mountain is steep and that mountain's hard to climb, you have to sit sometimes. Sometimes you have to go down to that knee to be reminded who has given you ultimate strength. In 2 Corinthians 1, 4 through 5, number 5 says, "Who comforteth us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to confront them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God. For as the sufferings of Christ abound in us, so our consolation also abounded by Christ." Pretty much saying, unless we experience difficulty and suffering, we cannot truly help another sufferer who faces the loss and pain. I used to say sometimes the best messages we got, the best examples we got was from the lessons we learned in our own life. The best examples we give, it's like we said, you wouldn't, someone who was going to counsel me on relationships, I wouldn't want someone who's been through relationships and hard problems. People who's learned from drug addictions, from alcohol addictions, people who's loved and lost, who knows what it's like to lose a close loved one. They know how they use that hurt, they use that tribulation they face in their own life to gain the wisdom, and God uses them then to be able to witness to others how to get through tough times. Sometimes we might not understand why we lost a parent at a young age. Sometimes we might not understand why we lost a sibling at a young age. But there comes times in our lives when we face others that are confronting a situation and they are lost, they're confused, they're hurt. And that's our chance for God to use us to save them, to witness to them, to give them a strength and joy that they didn't know how to find. Number 6, "And He said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee." That's a tough one. That's a good one right there. My grace is sufficient for me. No matter what's going on, God's grace is more sufficient than any other thing we could have right now that we think we're doing without. All you need is His grace. "For my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities than that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distress for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I made strong." Again, sometimes we don't understand, but what we're going through right now, we might think the nation's weak, the churches are getting weakened, and my dad mentioned the thing before. Right now, I think probably the word's getting out more than it ever has. People are at home, people are having to watch, people are looking for answers, people are looking for the word. So look at the blessings we're taking from this, and use this time. Hey, when we think we're at our weakest right now, God's about to make us our strongest. Our difficulties allow us to see God's strength displayed in our lives. Through every weakness and hard place, it brings us deeper humility and dependency on Him that we would never know without the trial and pain we have faced. Sometimes we don't know how strong we are until we go through that battle. Sometimes we don't know how blessed we are until we go through that storm. There's people right now that you might think, man, I feel bad for them. They feel more blessed and closer to God than they ever have been. Why? Because they learned they could make it through a storm. And it wasn't the worldly things that got them through. And number 7, the last one, in 2 Corinthians 4, 16 through 8. "For which cause we faint not, but through our outward man perish. Yet the inward man is renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." Pretty much He's telling us there, through every trial storm we encounter in life, God will use it to make a mark in this world. The troubles we walk through can bring glory to Him. He will use our lives, the joy and our faith we have, in spirit of our problems to draw others to Himself. And to help us remember that what we see around us is not all there is. He has more in store for us. And it's greater than we can ever imagine. I think today we've lost a lot. We've had a lot of privileges taken from us. I think it's had its reason. I think God needs to remind us that He is still more precious than all this stuff that we think we got to do. He is still more precious to go to church on Sunday and worship Him than to spend a day watching football. It is still more precious to spend time with family on a Saturday and work around your house and enjoy that time with them than for everybody to be at the shopping malls and everybody to be out camping and hunting. These are things that, yes, we're blessed that we get to do, but I think we've gotten back to what we realize is precious in our life that we had lost. The things that God has made for our family, our church, the core that makes us. So, simply put today, let's remember a few things. Remember God's love, remember God's grace, and remember God's goodness. In 1 Peter 4, 12 and 13, it says, Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you. Church, I'm here to tell you, this ain't going to be the last of it. We see already in the news right now, tomorrow, there's more storms coming. We don't know the end of this COVID. There's going to be years from now, as we've seen in the past 10 years, we've faced so many different diseases. This is not the last, and it definitely wasn't the first. But through God and through everything we face, we will prevail. But know that we still got more trials coming. But as though some strange thing happened unto you, but rejoice inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's sufferings, that when His glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad, also exceeding in joy. So church, just remember today, as my dad gets ready to come up here, remember, through these things we're going through, have patience and have joy. You might think, how can I do that? Sit back, think right now. Stop asking why, Lord. Stop using the excuses on Him. Stop wondering like He's putting the world through suffering. No. He is blessing us right now. And when you stop and think and you start looking at the rewards we want to achieve from this, you'll start seeing that God has a plan. We might not understand, but there is a plan. And in the end, through our patience and our joy, all we're going to do is find ourselves closer to God.
Praise the Lord. I was sitting there seeing those verses as he's trying to read them off. Those verses we know by heart. Verses that a lot of people really don't like hearing. You say, what do you mean? Well, I'll give you another one that a lot of people are really not too fond of, but yet there's joy and promise in it. And that verse says, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers them out of them all. Ain't that awesome? He said, no. You said there's many afflictions, yeah. But you got to also remember, the Bible says it also rains on the just and the unjust. That's going to happen, whether you're good, whether you're bad, whether you're a Christian, whether you're not. The good thing is that as a Christian, God says, I am with you. I'm with you always, even to the end. And He'll be there. And even though we face hard times, and there's many that's been going through situations this week, being at home this week myself, I've received a lot of requests, a lot of situations where people have brought forth the things that they've needed, especially after last Sunday, the devastation it hit. I like the miracles that I've heard, the testimonies. My brother is one who mentions how it just went over, and he lives in a double-wide trailer, and how it went over his place. It destroyed all the property around him, but he said it's like it just skipped right over them, and that's just something awesome. Now let's remember all these, though, who have lost homes. We had several lost their lives even, and still recuperating, still recovering from all the devastation that took place. One of the things that I want to share with you today, I was woken up early this morning, and I tell you, if I was a movie producer of any sort, I thought, man, this is a great concept. I don't know why anyone hasn't ever come up with this idea. And of course it did happen, but what if? And you say, what do you mean by what if? Well, I'm thinking about how we just went through Easter and how we dealt with situation where one man had to suffer and die. One man, God within man, had to be convicted of a crime he didn't commit. He was found guilty without a jury, without a trial. And I thought, man, why wasn't there a trial? I know they was trying to make it speedy. I know they was trying to rush things along, but what if there had been a trial? Because, you know, some of the things we have found that there was many that had followed Jesus, his own disciples, weren't even there as he was being brought before Pilate and brought before those and all that for the beating and things like that. They were in fear of their own life, and they took off and they hid. But here's Jesus having to go through all of this. And as they sit there, and of course it was his false accusers that was bringing forth, oh, he claims that he's going to be the next king, and he's brought forth certain things. And I wouldn't doubt they tried to say that maybe some of the miracles and things that was brought forth was trickery and was just hatched up as a plan of trying to take over. And we know that this was all a lie. But oh, how could it have been brought forth if there had been a trial? There was a song I heard during Easter time when I was a child that was called, "Were You There When They Crucified My Lord?" Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they hung him on the cross? All these things that just kept going on and on as it was going in detail of all the steps there. Let's back it up. What would have been if there had been a trial? Would Jesus be found guilty? I tell you, if I had walked during those 3 years of Jesus' ministry, seen and heard of the things, I would have gladly said, let me be his defense attorney. Because as his defense attorney, I knew who to ground up and all that as a crowd. In fact, I would have quickly got a married couple that had only been married a couple years to quickly come up from over in the area of Cana and sit there and say, listen, tell what happened at your wedding. And I could sit there, when they're wanting to say, oh, these miracles was fake, let them talk about the first miracle we read of Jesus. Let them sit there and say, we had this wedding all planned, and there was more people that showed up than what we really thought there would be. And we had all of our plans and trying to prepare and take care of things, but the one thing we forgot, we didn't bring enough wine. And we invited this woman named Mary that we knew that was kind of probably distant kin in the family, and she brought her son. Mary, her husband was a well-known carpenter by the name of Joseph, and so she brought her son with him, and he knows a little bit of carpentry too, but it wasn't the carpentry work that he helped us in this wedding. We ran out of wine, and she quickly just took over, stepped up, and said, whatever my son tells you to do, you do it. And we find in the miracle where Jesus turned the water into wine. How amazed and all those would be. I could see Pilate even, holding his head back, sitting there in amazement, sitting there saying, wow, I thought that was a myth, but here's right here from the married couple mentioning about this. I can see also another person from the area of Cana, a nobleman, whose son and all that was healed. And he brings forth his testimony. And also I can see a man called, the Bible doesn't mention too many names, but he had a nickname when he was being persecuted because he was so demon-possessed, and he was running around naked in the graveyards. And all of a sudden, Jesus came to him and cast the demons out. The nickname they gave him was called Legion. And I could see him coming forth, talking about, you wouldn't believe what happened to me. I mean, I was a wild individual. I had no control over myself. Yet this man named Jesus appeared on our shores one day, and he healed me. I could see another one quickly come in and sit there and say, you want to talk about touching one that's demon-possessed? And I never will forget when me and my buddy over here, we were both demon-possessed, and we wouldn't even let anybody enter town. And as soon as we seen this man Jesus come about, we quickly and all that were trying to hinder everyone, but we knew exactly who he was. We felt it, we knew his presence and all. And as we sit there and confronted him, something within us spoke out. And of course, we know what had happened to demons and all that, begged for mercy because they knew Jesus, the Son of God, was present. And as they begged for mercy, we find that they said, let us go into the swine. And as they quickly went into the swine, of course, ran off into the sea and drowned themselves. And you know the sad part, there was individuals in that area, they were upset. That was their way of living. You say, but swine in the Jewish area, how could that be horrible and all that? Wasn't that horrible that they would even have pigs in their area? Well, you got to realize what swine was good for. That was their garbage disposal. And all of a sudden you took them out of business and all that by destroying where they were making their profit of eliminating people's garbage and all that when they would bring them to the swine. But they were still testifying. Oh, but you got to understand, yeah, there were some people mad because of this. I could see the prosecutor and the defense going back and forth, and they were saying, yeah, but did he not cost them their living, and did he not cause this horrible thing to happen? They said, yes, but we are free now. We're not even possessed anymore. I could see individuals and all that not only being possessed, I could see this great nobleman walk in. And all of a sudden he says, oh, let me speak. And he said, and I can see the defense attorney, I want to call to the stand a man named Jairus. And as Jairus is sitting there standing, he sits there and says, you just don't understand at all what happened to me. My daughter, my 12-year-old daughter was laying there very sick and getting ready to die. And I found Jesus. And I brought him there. But even as I brought him there and all that, it was a little bit too late. My daughter died. And even though they were preparing and getting things ready for my daughter's death and the funeral arrangements all going about, this man Jesus sitting over here come in and he said, clear the room. Everyone leave. She's just asleep. They thought it was a joke, but this man named Jesus in here brought my daughter back to life. Oh, can you imagine Pilate sitting back in his seat saying he was able to bring the dead back to life? And they sit there and quickly the defense attorney can say, oh, but this is not my only witness about bringing the dead back to life. Let me bring this widow woman in. And as the widow woman sits there and she comes forth, she said, oh, I know what it's like and all that when you're talking about dealing with interference with a funeral. My son had already died and was in the casket. He'd been dead a couple days and he was in the casket and we were marching to the graveyard. And as we were marching to the graveyard, this man Jesus over here had pity on me, stopped the funeral, and touched the coffin, and my son came back to life. Oh, I know this man is real. You know, and all these different ones that's coming forth, from the blind men that cried out, Jesus, have mercy on us, the son of David, and many that were brought forth, the dumb that made to talk, the man with the withered hand, whose hand was restored, all these coming forth as witnesses. And I can see as each one's coming forth, and I can see as Pilate's eyes are getting bigger and bigger, realizing, man, what great things this man's done. Why are they sitting there worried about him and all that and trying to bring false accusations to him? These character witnesses are building him up and all that, of what great miracles he's done. There was always probably opposition. I can see where the men brought the man to the roof and tore open the roof and lowered their friend's body down to get healed. And I wouldn't doubt maybe the homeowner sit there and said, but they destroyed my roof. It doesn't matter. The miracle was this man Jesus healed, delivered, brought back and all that, those that was dead that were now alive again. And I could see one even coming forward sitting there and saying, this man named Jairus is talking about his daughter. You ought to see what happened to me and all that had an issue of blood for 12 years. I suffered so much and all that, and I had to stay away from the crowd. And all I had to do was just touch the hem of his garment. And I was made whole. All these different ones and all that, and then finally now it's coming near the end of the witnesses, all the different ones giving testimonies, and I can see now they sit there and they say, but we got even one of your own. And they bring a Roman centurion in. And the Roman centurion walks up through there, and he sits there, and he says, you don't realize this, but as I have a servant that I care for greatly. I wouldn't doubt he was probably a captain that had servants. And as the captain of the army come in, probably recognition given to him by all those that was present, even Pilate himself as the governor, giving this centurion recognition and all. And it's good to see you, captain, whatever his name might have been. And as he come forth, I can then see him sitting there saying, this man has got great authority. He might look like a lowly individual. He's a man of great authority because he comes to my house, and I didn't really feel, not as a Jew, but I knew understood authority. He didn't need to come in my house. All he had to do, because I recognized what he had done, speak the word. And so he spoke the word. When I asked him, that's all he had to say. He just spoke the word because of my faith. I didn't realize it was my faith, but I knew what this man could do. And by him speaking the word, my servant was made whole. It was awesome. And all of a sudden, here comes another centurion in. This centurion come in, and he's got a smile from ear to ear. He's excited. He can't wait to get in there. And he sits there and said, listen, he said, I done a bad thing. I was sent to go and arrest this man named Jesus. I went up where he was gathered together with his disciples, and I went to go gather around them, and as I sit there, and I quickly was holding them and trying to gather them together and dragging them and all that back this way, one of his disciples quickly grabbed my sword and cut off my ear. I can see now all of a sudden Pilate is looking bewildered. What do you mean cut off your ear? Your ear's on your head. That's right, it is. Because this man Jesus stopped him, gave me back my sword, reached down, picked up my ear. You can't even see his sword was cut off. Yet, this man put my ear back in place. He's got to be somebody important. This is something special. I can see Pilate scratching his head. I can see all those around and wondering. And then finally the defense attorney says, I have one final witness. But before he brings this witness, I can see that all of a sudden Pilate's saying, wait a minute, you mentioned about his disciples. Where's his disciples? Why are they not here? We can't find them. But I can see this old woman getting up from the back, sit there and says, I don't know where my son-in-law is at. This is Peter's mother-in-law. She said, but I can give word for this man. He healed me when I was sick. Healed my daughter, my son-in-law's wife, my son-in-law Peter's wife. And I don't know why he's not here, because he left his business, gave away his business and all that. In fact, I used to hear such great stories of how Jesus moved and touched, but his last greatest haul of fish he ever had was when he met this man named Jesus. Jesus asked to borrow his boat while he's there sitting there after having a frustrating night, said he didn't catch a thing. But then all of a sudden, after Jesus ministered and he talked to them, he said, take your boats back out, cast your net on the other side, and all of a sudden he brought in a haul so huge, so large. I mean, we've lived off of that for quite a while now, the intake to come in. All because of what this man done. In fact, it stirred my son-in-law so much, he started following this man. I don't know why he's not here. I don't understand why he's not here. Of course, we know where Peter and all the others was at in fear of their life. But his mother-in-law was not ashamed, because she knew what it was to be healed. She didn't mind sharing the testimony. But where's this last witness that you had to bring forth? Well, this miracle here happened about a week ago. And he opened the door, and in walks Lazarus. And if this was something that had probably been spread out a good bit, because as Jesus first entered town, they thought they had him caught because of him entering in, but he come to touch Lazarus. Lazarus being dead 4 days. I don't doubt as he was walking up front to give his testimony, individuals, some of the Roman soldiers even, reaching forward, touching him, making sure that he's real. You know, they couldn't believe it. I just touched a man who was dead and brought back to life. Not just the testimony of someone, but sitting there actually seeing a man who was really clinically dead 4 days. And then Lazarus coming forth, mentioning and all that, the great miracle that happened to him. I'm talking about his great love that him and Jesus had for each other. You know, if they had this trial, we know it did happen. Could you imagine the many more that would have come? The many who would have come and testified on Jesus' behalf. But see, they weren't there. They weren't allowed to be there. But it was all for fulfillment. As I said, that song used to say, were you there when they crucified my Lord? We hear the stories. We try to picture it. As I sit there today, I was woken up early this morning and going over all these different individuals, and many people come to mind. It was just one Bible story after another, and I could just see them. As I said, if I was a TV producer, that would be such a great and awesome what-if type movie you could have put forth of people who had touched like Jesus. They weren't there though. They weren't allowed to be there. You and I weren't there neither. But you know what? Jesus didn't say a word. Jesus accepted the punishment, but not for anything he did. He accepted the punishment for what I did, for what you've done, for what everyone throughout history has done, past, present, and even future. For every single sin, Jesus says, I will go and accept the punishment. In other words, where I'm guilty, Jesus says, that's all right. I'll suffer the punishment for it. He went to the cross, a horrible death and crucifixion, a death that normally would have took several days, even to a week. It just counts on the endurance of the individual. Of course, his endurance was almost gone. They could have killed him when they was beating him. They could have killed him when he was going through the beating, the torture. You could have killed him and all that as they sit there, not just the stripes on his back, but the torture where they even ripped the beard from his face. The matted look from the beating that was placed upon him. The torture of carrying that cross, the heavy cross, down the way towards Golgotha. How horrible. We've seen depictions and people try to put it forth in movies and try to bring forth maybe how bad it was. I don't think any of us really imagine because we weren't there. We can only imagine how bad it was. But the part that I look at is that all those other things could have killed him, but it didn't. Because it wasn't over with yet. He had to endure every bit of it to define him. In other words, Satan would have tried to kill him with the stripes laid on his back, but he couldn't do it. Satan would have tried to kill him from the beating from the soldiers, but he couldn't do it. From the crown of thorns shoved on his head that pierced his temple, he could have bled to death. But see, Satan couldn't kill him. Man couldn't kill him. Jesus had to give his life. And until he said the words, it is finished, it wasn't over with yet. He sat there through all of the allegations, the false accusations, never said a word. Like a lamb led to the slaughter, he went to the cross, and he died for our sins. Even to this day, oh yes, the final sacrifice given, the final shedding of blood given, that I can go free. You know what the greatest thing about it is? Sometimes we're thinking, is it that easy? Oh yeah. That's how easy it is. If you accept that Jesus Christ went to the cross, died for your sins, you accept that, you believe in that, that's how easy it is to be saved. But you got to accept it, you got to believe it. We weren't there. But if I was, I don't know how I would have acted. If I was one that walked with him, I might have went into hiding too. You know how flesh is. We worry about, am I going to die tomorrow? We let things grasp at us. We let fear dominate when we shouldn't. But all those that were bold enough that would have stood for it. I'm glad that John came forth bold enough to stand there and take Jesus' mother to the cross. How horrible it was to see that. Not being able to recognize his master, but he loved him so much. We all love him so much. Jesus, how we love you, how we're so thankful for what you did for us. I want you to kind of think of that. Think of many others this week. Where were they at? What was their story? Could they maybe said something that could have intervened and stopped this? Pilate probably knew enough and heard enough. That's why he said, I wash my hands and I leave it to the people. But it was all the accusers that was saying, crucify him. They were the ones that wanted to put an end to it. I know it's been a week since Easter, but this is something that goes every single day of our life. The story of that resurrection power where Jesus himself conquered death, hell, and the grave. But the biggest part is he went to the cross. If there hadn't been a cross, if there hadn't been a grave, we would not be able to be saved. But yet he did that for you and I. Let's remember the many that have left requests. Just remember every heart and soul. And I'm so thankful that we do get a chance to bring this forth to you and share with you the word. I hope something was said today from song, from the lesson, powerful lesson that Daniel shared with us, or from the words that I just shared with you. and trying to get your mind to be jogged a little bit, fascination of what could be. And let's just uphold each other in prayer. I'm looking for the day when everything gets back to normal. I believe it's coming soon. I believe there's getting ready to be something quickly took place. I'm like the Lord was stirring my heart the other night, and I think all of us just need to realize, okay, we've seen enough. Just like when they woke Jesus up in the boat, and they were fearful of their life, and Jesus realized, okay, enough is enough. You know, he knew it was probably storming, even though he was sleeping through it. He wasn't worried about the storm. He's the master of the sea, because he just stood up and he said, "Peace, be still." And I think that's what we need to start putting forth to end this storm, this chaos, this stuff that seems to be bringing people down and stirring up people and all that. I'm wondering what's going to happen next, and get things back on a roll again, get our economy going again, get everyone back to the norm again. Hopefully that they'll remember that during this time that how much Jesus has taken care of and watched over them, and hopefully get them all back in church. So let's remember each and every by saying maybe those words: peace, be still. To COVID-19, peace, be still. To the tornadoes and the bad environmental storms, peace, be still. Heavenly Father, we come to you thanking you and praising you, giving you all honor and glory for all the many blessings you bestowed in our lives. I thank you, Lord, for this opportunity that we were able to come forth and bring forth the word to you still, and to many, Lord, who've been able to receive this word and how it's encouraging them. Lord, it's only our part that we can do, Lord, is continue to spread the word. And where Satan probably is aggravated that the word's still being spread by thinking that the church house is closed, church house is just one function that the word can get out there. Lord, we're reaching in every type of way that we can, through messages, through YouTube, through Facebook, through everywhere, Lord. These modern miracles that come forth to our aid, we're now using them for your word to get out. And we thank you, Lord, and we praise you. Touch every sickness, every disease. Touch those who've lost their homes and their families. And Lord, touch those, Lord, that's heartbroken. Touch those that's dealing with cancer, heart situation. Those, Lord, who can't even get into the hospitals, needing a healing touch. And we it all come from you. Why? You are our healer, our redeemer, our all in all. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you.